Alright, for our guy here, as I said, I'm leaning towards the darker brown. For the soles of his boots, I'm going to bring in the Chestnut Brown, which is Y13. This is a very, very dark brown. And I've got out my skin tone set, which has quite a lot of nice browns in it. I didn't think of that at first this morning, but yeah, I wanted a dark brown for his boots, but maybe not as dark as his hair. So this is burnt sienna, so we're going to give that a little bit of a go. Hopefully it should come out looking a little bit different to that chestnut brown. Possibly not, but yeah, we're going to try. His boots seem to end there, and then we have some sort of leg wrappings carrying on, so let's see what we can come up with for those. It's not drying too different than our chestnut brown, but okay. Okay, so burnt sienna for his boot, caramel brown for the straps. Okay, and what should we bring up? Oh, I painted myself into a corner here. I have no idea what colour to do those leg wrappings. But if we make them the same as his arm wrappings. This is E288 Hazelnuts. Let's try that. Now this one is really nice for skin colour. It's a very slightly different colour to his trousers, so it should be good. What I do is wrist wrappings with the burnt sienna as the strap colour. I'm thinking this one might look too much like the colour of the bear's fur, and that's what we don't want, so I'm going to make this the hazelnuts, and the strap being the burnt sienna, just the one strap on this side. And maybe I want a slightly darker colour for this bit here. Maybe we can make the hazelnuts the fur colour for the top bit of his hand wrappings. I thought this would be tough to decide the colours. It's probably why I haven't done it till now. We'll make that the hazelnut colour, and I want this bit to be slightly darker colour, but nothing that's too close to the bear colour. Oh, you know, I could make it blue just to make it stand out from the bear. This is the light blue, the same colour as I did the nearest trees. Yeah, I think that would work. And if, oh yeah, oh now the brain's thinking, if we bring in that darker blue, this kind of loincloth type deal, like that, yeah. I'm going to bring lots of things into consideration here. And usually I wouldn't fill my marker basing. I really wouldn't. Bring in the burnt sienna, darker brown for these kind of decorative lines. Yeah, I hope that would be different enough to the brown of the bear to actually show up, and it is. Although for these I might swap the colours around, because I'm going to put inside there, I'm going to put the hazelnut colour, and I'll put the hazelnut colour there. It's slightly similar to the colour of his trousers, but I think once I've shaded it, that would stand out a little bit more. Okay, I wonder if we could make these straps blue. Might look a bit odd if I make the fur blue, but I'll make those straps blue. No plans, you're actually seeing my planning process here in action. Shade this the same as we shaded those closest trees. So this is a light ultramarine indigo light. A little bit of the white, and I think we might bring in a little bit of the black as well on this. Umber, I think this one is. I'm pretty sure this one is raw umber. I'm just going to use a little bit of shade on that hazelnut colour. Depending on how that works, I might use that down for his legs as well. And then blend it with the white and see what we get there. Looking like it might be some sort of leather. Let's bring in a bit of texture. We're looking good. Might as well do my usual highlighting at this point in the game. I tried to keep it to a minimum at first, but for me that was never going to work. This is Castle Arts as sepia. It's more of a warmer redder brown, so I thought it might work a bit better next to this blue. We could do with a very, very, very light brown. We could do with a very light brown for this fur here, so I'll look into the Pastelo pencils. This one is a very light brown. That's what we need. And umber, just to give a shadow to this fur, and I might try going around the edges of that with the white gel pen. Because as I have said, the ship has sailed for keeping it to a minimum. I'm still keeping to the brown and blue palette, but maybe slightly too much white I've used. Let's try this. I need to darken those shadows, I think. This is why I wanted the dark shadows around this guy. And just bring in a bit of that dark brown. Burnt umber. Yeah, that's working. They're being lit from behind, so they'd be kind of rim lighting on both sides. I'm not entirely sure I'm happy with these leg wraps. Oh, that's slightly better. Let's see if we can shade that darker brown with the burnt umber, or whether it is. Oh, we can, a little bit. We can a little. A bit of leather texture on his boots there. Don't want them to look too smooth. He looks like the kind of guy who might make his own boots, I don't know. Add a bit of texture with that gel pen as well. Light brown. Shading very slightly with the burnt umber. And these trousers, these lighter brown trousers, I was also shading with burnt umber for the darkest shadows. And we're going to have Zach's casting a shadow down over his leg anyway. I did sepia on those, didn't we? It's a bit of hazelnut brown. Well, it's either hazelnut brown. And I was bringing in the raw umber as well. Few highlights down the edges here so he stands out from the bear. I'm working our way up. I might just add a little bit of black and a bit of white to this to make it try and look like shiny metal. I don't know if I'll be able to. It would be reflecting the trees though, so maybe a little bit of that. I can never remember the name. Light ultramarine. Have to be pretty stylized, just I haven't quite figured out a colour combination for silver or steel anyway, so and only being able to use brown and blue is pretty limiting. There will be a lot of white on this axe because it's supposed to be reflective metal. I'm going to try and make it look at least a little bit shiny. We'll see if that works. I'm not sure if any of the bear or anything brown would be reflecting into it, but it's looking kind of shiny. Kind of. Okay, got this blue and light indigo, same shades as we've used for the trees. If that would show up there. Doesn't really show up super well. was a hazelnut brown, going in with the burnt umber now, just for the shadow, same as I did on the other leg of his trousers. I'm trying to add a bit of shadow to make it look as if this kind of leg plate, I'm not exactly sure what it's called, is different than the rest of his trousers. Not sure what these would be made of. This is raw umber, the more yellow kind of brown. And then I'm going to try blending those. Don't think there would be much light reaching there to get any white gel pen highlights. That would be mostly in shadow there, I think, underneath all these belts. I'll make that light white fur. I'll try and puzzle out how this chest piece actually goes. It looks like it might be this blue actually coming up. That hazelnut colour. I did want his armour to be mostly brown, but it does look as if this part at least is blue. And that was this light blue. Yeah, it seems to come up to there. Seems to be a line. We seem to have a line across here, so that would be where this blue comes up to. Judging from, it would come up there. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm no expert on armour or anything of that description. It looks as if that's what we're dealing with. My gut's telling me to make these a burnt sienna. This is supposed to be the dark blue, and then in between is supposed to be the yellow grey, like that. Is that making sense? Maybe if we make this the yellow grey as well. Brown grey rather, not yellow grey. Brown grey. The whole point is blue and brown. Yeah, this is brown grey. So if all this is going to be blue, we'll shade that the same way as we shade the trees. This is ultramarine light, if I'm remembering right. That will be a first if I am. Indigo light. Add some shadows underneath the straps, but we'll leave the most of the outside to be where the highlights come from that moon. Bring in a little bit of that rim lighting from the moon. Which will be either side, because it's basically directly behind him. Let's shade this with a little bit of the hazelnut brown actually. Okay, we'll have the hazelnut brown to shade this kind of armour piece here. Not entirely sure what colour I'm going to do the outside. Maybe the darkest brown, kind of chestnut. I was just thinking that if the woods around him are all blue and his armour's blue, he would be kind of camouflaged, wouldn't he? So that would be what he would be wearing if he was a kind of forest hunter sort of guy, which is what I think he's looking like. And this would probably be made out of leather, so I might make it look a bit more textured. Bring in the darker brown, the burnt umber. and add a little bit of texture. Emphasize those seam lines as well. Try to give it a bit of a rough texture, like not so blended. That's it. Looking kind of leathery, and I think, yeah, maybe I'll bring in the chestnut brown for this edging here. Not entirely sure that's the right choice. Maybe these straps can be the darkest brown as well. Yeah, no, it looks better on that little armour piece, chest piece he's got. Okay. Trouble is, the only colour I can really shade that darkest brown with is white. Because none of my browns or anything really show up. Maybe give it a little bit of this reddy brown. Might change the colour slightly somewhat. We'll just shade this blue and the lighter brown on his arm with the same colours as we've used in these other places. Light ultramarine and the indigo light for the blue. And I think it was raw umber and hazelnut brown for the lighter brown there. And I'm using the same kind of white fur we've got on his boots there for that kind of in-between. Bit of fur on his arm. Slightly darker fur at the top. Hazelnut brown. I'll bring in that hazelnut brown for this fur up here as well. Just blend that out with the white and see how we do. Probably add a few white highlights around the outside as I've been doing. Okay, raw umber we're just bringing into this lighter brown here. I think that brown grey we'll use for that bit and that bit. And up there. It ties around his axe. Add some more shadows under there so it doesn't look exactly the same colour as his trousers, even though it is. Lighten it with the white, and there we go. No, it doesn't look quite the same. Okay, and I've gotten distracted, but I just really figured out what kind of colour I want these to be. And one of the darker browns, maybe the burnt sienna for the handle. Maybe the hazelnut brown for this piece here. Not sure if that quite looks like wood grain, but some sort of texture on there. And that handle, that axe would have highlights on it because that's ahead of him. He's holding it out towards the front of the picture, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. That's not how I wanted it to look. I think maybe I picked the wrong colour for that, but decisions made. We gotta run with it now. The paper is not taking a heck of a lot because it's Amazon paper. So we are having to be fairly careful. And this fur we're going right the way around the edge to make it look like it's at least sort of maybe a cream colour, even though we are using brown and white. Some sort of fur happening there. And here, we'll give it a few more kind of fluffy strands coming out. This is just my normal skin tone combination I've tried using on his skin here. he is fairly small, not like my usual portraits that I do, so again there won't be a heck of a lot of shading. Just bring in the apricot. This other one looks like I've already done the peaches and cream, so I'll go in with the apricot. Just keeping it fairly simple because, as I've said, he's pretty small with regard to the whole picture, so we don't want to muddy him up by trying to put in too much shading. Needs to be quite dark around where that fur kind of trim comes in, because we're going to be doing some white kind of strands going up over the area of his arm, so we're going to need some there. We'll blend in with the white because his arm is out in the moonlight. Same on this arm. Can't remember if I did it when I first started, but we'll do it now. Flesh tones are allowed, and I'm mainly shading that with the browns and the two flesh tones from the Arteza. And I do use burnt ochre for my flesh shading as well, which I've been using to shade my browns. And the Hazelnut Brown. And for any pretty dark shadows, the burnt umber. I think that's good enough. So we'll bring out the few little fur, fluffy strands of fur over there. And this one we go completely over the lights. Give him a highlight around his skin as well, because we do have that rim lighting from the moon. We are getting there now. Only a little bit of armour left to figure out. And this face. Oh, we need to do the buckle on his belt, don't we? I think my original thought was to try and make this look like silver. And I have no kind of idea how to try and do that. Put a little bit of the brown on there so it looks like it might be reflecting from something. Blend that out. I don't suppose it looks silver at all. It is kind of hard when you have a very limited palette. I think I'd probably just do that with the metallic Sharpie or something if I was actually colouring it without a limited palette. Because it's quite hard when you're trying to do realism with a very limited palette. Let's try... We had Venetian blue, didn't we? That's more of a... yeah... metallic sort of blue. Yeah, that's slightly better. So I'm not sure that's entirely looking metallic, but I think that helps slightly. Okay, so just we've got his chest armour left to do now. So we need to figure out what's going on around here. I think these parts will probably be that blue. The same blue we've got underneath at his waist, so we'll put that in. Put that in under his arms there. There's a little bit of kind of strapping going on there, so we'll make that the burnt sienna. I'll make this the brown grey. Give him some of the blue up around his neck. Make that there, brown grey. It doesn't seem to be a cape, so that must like sort of a sleeveless hoodie. The best I can describe the effect I'm going for there. Now, I decide on a colour for that armour now. Yeah, I should really keep with the colour scheme I've got going on. Yeah, we could do that. We could bring in the hazelnut. This bit here. Let's do these bits burnt sienna. And this. Hoping this will work. And then bring in the brown grey just for this piece here. Maybe that bit inside should be slightly different, but Maybe when I colour it again in my own colour scheme, that can be what I do, but for now I think that is what we'll work with. And just before I go on with his armour there, I'll give him some skin, trying to keep it really simple. Small faces are not my strong point. Big faces I can do. Small faces, a little bit more tricky. Let's keep doing cream. Apricot. A little bit of hazelnut brown. I'll try to keep it away from the brown grey because that's what I use to shade the brown grey as well. Just trying to pick out the main kind of areas of shadow he'd have on his face. Brown ochre. And to be honest, I don't think he needs a lot more than that. Try a little bit of blending. And the eyes. Maybe his eyes should be the same as the bear. Maybe we can make it that raw umber, kind of yellowy, a yellowy brown. There we go, so really kind of yellowy brown. Maybe make them the same as the bear. Oh, give them both that kind of yellowy brown. That's good. Will do. Hazelnut brown, just to emphasise his lips there. There we go, I'm going to leave him at that before I start overthinking him and going completely wrong with it. Okay, so we're shading this with the hazelnut brown and the raw umber, as we've been doing. Onto his hood. I don't think it's actually a cape, I think it's just a hood. Because there's no cape behind him. You can see all of the bear, there's no cape behind him. So this is just a hood. That's alright, we'll go in with the raw umber. It's not a heck of a lot of detail that you really need to put in because the drawing is so small. A bit of white for that lighting around the edges from the moon. We can add a little bit of burnt umber. Don't think we need all that much. There is a whole lot of wrinkles going on there, but we don't need to pick them all out, I don't think, as long as you get the impression that it is kind of a folded hood around his neck there. I think we'll be good. And there we go. I did do the sides of his waist there as well. Bring in some of this detail. I suppose I could have done this in a few different shades of brown, but just for simplicity, to stop things getting a bit too muddy with detail, trying to pare things down. Because at the best of times I have a tendency to overthink things. So I'm trying to keep things fairly simple, especially when there's this much detail already in the drawing. I don't need to bring in any more than what I need. So something like that. Let's bring in a tiny little bit of black just to make sure we've got a bit of a shadow underneath there. We do have these straps as well. Let's bring in the white. Okay, shall we bring in a more reddier brown there? Bring in a little bit of sepia. I make it a slightly different shade of brown than we got anywhere else, but also bring in the more reddier tones we've got going on the bear maybe. Lots of very tiny details. I can hardly even see some of what's going on here. I think these pictures were a lot larger when Selina Fenech first drew them, or painted them and then shrunk them down. Because there is a lot of detail. It's give a few little highlights around the edges. Darken it into the middle. We'll just shade this little bit of blue cloth we've got. So that on his chest underneath these shoulder pads. That's the light ultramarine and indigo light. Just going to try and give the kind of effect of wrinkles in the fabric going on here. It's too small to put in every single detail. That would be impossible. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. It's a bit hard to see, but yeah, some sort of shape there. I'll give some shadow here underneath where his hood comes. Some shading here. This is a bit an umber. Just about shows up as a shadow on top of this burnt sienna. There's a few little details of patterning on this leather here, but I'm not going to really try and bring them out because we do have a lot going on. Even with our limited palette, there is quite a lot going on here, so we don't want to bring too much into it if we don't have to. A bit of shade and a bit of light. Just to show really there's some kind of shape going on there. You bring in the black too. To bring out a couple of those shadows, but no, I'm not going too super mad with it. Moonlight. And last but not least, we have this bit of his armour on his arm here. Going in with the Hazelnut Brown. There is some kind of highlight lines on there that look as if it might be supposed to be metal, but maybe it could be copper or brass. So we'll fill those out. That would be interesting to do if I was making my own colour scheme. Trying to figure out what to do with that there. I suppose it does simplify it quite a lot when you have got such a limited colour palette. And 2 colours is fairly limited. Although I have been able to use all the different shades of those colours, so let's see what we can do with that. Where is my Venetian blue? I think my original thought with these parts of his armour where I coloured them the light blue was to try and make them look metallic somehow. Not sure how I intended to achieve that. Maybe if I bring in a bit of a cool grey there. We are allowed to use a little bit of grey, so we are. This is Cathars Gold Cool Grey. I don't know if that will make any difference, making that look a little bit more metallic. And the last few highlights, I think. Maybe the highlights will help make that little bit look a little bit more metallic. I don't know. It's hard to say. But yeah, I think it helps a little bit. We have this clasp or some sort of medallion in the middle of his armour there. And again, I think I intended to try and make it look metallic, but I have no idea how to do that. I think I'm trying to do it with these kind of diagonal lines. And put in a few white highlights in. And the white highlights might help to make that look a little bit more metallic. I'm not entirely sure that works. Let's try this cool grey. That helped slightly, I think. I'm not entirely sure it works, but yeah, we're going to go with that and call him done. There we go, there's our Bear Lord guy with a very limited colour palette of blue and brown. And that is pretty much all that I've used, with a little bit of black and white, a very, very tiny touch of cool grey. Trying to get my metallics to look metallic. I'm not entirely sure that worked, but overall, yeah, I'm really happy with it. I do love how this ground has come out. I did kind of cave in and end up using the white gel pen a lot more than I really planned to, as we're only supposed to use a little bit of white, but that's just the way I colour. I can't colour without my white gel pen, and for me, I suppose, yeah, it's kind of a normal amount, especially with the moon shining there and trying to bring in some sort of moon glow effect to it. So but anyway, I hope you've enjoyed following along. I will try and get a speed colour out showing everything. But yeah, I'll try and get that out if I can, if I have time. But in the meantime, thank you for watching everyone. Take care, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye!